Yeah, and again, all you need to become a good coder is perseverance, because you're going to encounter errors and mistakes.
Coming at you, about to teach you a lesson. When it comes to code, you know he's never guessing. So if you think you want to learn to go and code things, get on up to Lesson on Coding.
All right. 3, 2, 1, action. What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Lesson on Coding podcast. My name is Ryan Lesson. So in the Lesson on Coding podcast, we'll be talking about all things technology and bring on a bunch of cool guests to really dive into personal experiences and discuss many, many topics. As you guys might have guessed, this is our very first episode, and boy, do we have a special one for you guys. So we got a guest here that came here all the way from Detroit, Michigan. Some of you might know him, but some of you may not know him. So without any further ado, let's bring him on. Jordan, why don't you come on in? Woo!
How you guys doing?
Good. How you doing, bro?
I'm pretty
Good
good.
to see you, man.
Good. Excited to be on the podcast here and talk some technology.
Yeah, definitely. I have to apologize for Texas in general, because I know when you think of Texas, you're probably thinking super hot and very sunny, but this weekend it's been the low 40s the whole time, so I'm sorry it wasn't, really hot and warm like you were hoping for.
Yeah, it's been pretty cold here. However, I'm from Michigan. I'm used to the cold and the snow, and I'm just happy that there's no snow here. And, other than that, it's not too bad.
Gotcha. So if you guys don't know, Jordan is in charge of making all my graphics for the Lesson on Coding YouTube channel. He helps with some of the editing and helps with some of the video ideas. And actually, we were going to debut him in his own video coming soon. We just finished it up last night. When do we think we're going to have that out?
Should be coming out in the next week or so.
Yeah. Just got to do some editing. It's a banger.
Yeah, just definitely look forward to it. It should be a really good video, very helpful for any of you guys trying to learn Dart.
Yes, Dart. Very, very hot language out there. So why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm a senior in high school. I'm 17 years old. I'm a very avid programmer. I like to do lots of programming projects, and I'm very excited to be on this podcast, and yeah.
Awesome. Well, we're happy to have you here. So, you're in high school, and here's the thing. A lot of people don't get started as early as you did, especially me. I didn't really get started, programming until I was 20. I mean, even in college, the first beginner classes aren't really coding. Like, they start you off with, like, Excel or, like, Microsoft Access, and you kind of work your way up to it. So, I'm curious to know how you really got into it and, what kind of resources you may have used to learn it. So, yeah, why don't you tell, what, made you want to go into learning how to program?
Yeah, so there's several factors that, made me want to enter the field of programming. Other than you kind of nudging me in the way of wanting to program, just in general, coding is a very high demand field of work to do.
It is, yeah.
If you go into the field of coding, there's so much different fields, different types of coding you can go into. You can go to security, you can go to back end, front end. So there's a lot of flexibility in it. Additionally, people use their phones and their computers every single day. Yeah. And, in order to catch people's attention, you got to put something on the phone. So that was a big reason for me to get into coding and, attract people's attention and, make a difference in the world. So those things were definitely a big motivator of getting into programming.
Gotcha. Well, let's talk about, phones. I mean, with the new iOS update, they give you like a weekly screen report, how much you're looking at your screen. And it baffles me how much I'm looking at my screen in a week. It's like 4 hours or so, 4 or 5 hours a week of looking at my phone. And what's most surprising is it gives you how many times a day you're just turning on your phone to look at it. And for me, it's like I'm turning on my phone over 50 times a day to see, what's going on. Am I missing something? And a lot of the time, let's put it like this. A lot of the time, it's not even there's no notifications. I just turn it on to, think I have notifications, but it's not. So it's crazy how intertwined we are, with our phones, with technology in general.
Right. It's basically an extension of us. I remember I looked on the YouTube. YouTube now tracks how much time you're watching videos. Yeah. It's for the past week, I've watched 24 hours worth of YouTube videos. I mean, that has to be insane.
You got some good numbers there.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
got that YouTube Premium, huh?
I got the YouTube
Yep.
Premium.
That's all I watch now. I don't even have cable. I just all YouTube Premium for me.
Of course, of course. It's a great resource.
Gotcha. So let's talk. I want to get into what resources did you use? So I know in high school there probably aren't any programming classes, and then how I touched on earlier in college, you don't really start actually writing code until you probably get into a more in-depth, course when you're either like a second semester sophomore, you're more of a junior, early semester junior. So how did you what resources did you use to really start learning and diving in?
Well, just to talk about school and what they teach in terms of programming, the programming classes I've taken in school, they're very, very low, programming kind of info they teach in it.
Yeah.
So, for example, they teach stuff like Visual Basic, very obsolete, maybe irrelevant programming languages.
It's still used somewhere, but yes, it's not. It's kind of trending downwards. Yeah, it's more.
Exactly. But when I learned how to code, I strongly believe in self-education and just learning through experience. So what I did, I used resources like YouTube and resources like Stack Overflow. On YouTube, I think I watched maybe thousands upon thousands of videos on how to learn how to code, how to do specific things in code. I learned how to write code in Swift and Dart all through YouTube and using Stack Overflow. In Stack Overflow, the coding community they're so helpful, they're so friendly, and if you have a question, they'll help you out with anything.
Yeah, there's a lot of developers who are just wanting to help you. They want to help you, they want to receive help. I mean, it's a very, very active and very, very friendly and open community. So let's move on to apps you built. So you have an app right now in the iOS store, and you have another one that's coming out soon, correct?
Yeah, it should be coming out in the next week or so.
Gotcha. So let's talk about the first one you built. All right, so first app, tell me, I guess, your inspiration for it, what you used, and what language you used to code it in.
Yeah, so I just thought one day I thought of a really, really good idea. I thought to myself, it was kind of creating a Tinder for dogs where you can just look at dogs that people post. They create their own social media account for their dogs, and you can swipe to see dogs that you like. You swipe right to see if you like a dog, swipe left to move on to the next dog. So it's kind of a Tinder-like app. And so I coded that in Swift. That was the first language I learned. I learned it all through YouTube videos and, again, Stack Overflow. To code the whole app, I would say it took me about less than 2 months, maybe 2 months.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's pretty fast development. And yeah, I mean, it was just a great experience.
So from idea to it being on the App Store, 2 months?
Yes, 2
Wow.
months.
And before this, you had no prior, experience really building an app, correct?
Before this, I had no experience at all, absolutely none.
Very cool, very cool. Awesome. Okay, so what were, I guess, the challenges of doing something like that? Because a lot of people are intimidated, They think, oh, it's going to be too hard for me. Oh, you need to be like a rocket scientist to learn, how to do this. It has to deal with heavy mathematics and stuff like that. But it really doesn't. I mean, I guess, how did you get past all the stigma and all the, oh, this is, reserved for people who are geniuses or, stuff like that?
Yeah. Well, the first couple of weeks, maybe first 2 or 3 weeks are definitely hard. You're not going to know what you're doing. All you have to do is just persevere. Because over time, you'll definitely understand it. I think that learning the language and working on a project at the same time is very helpful for getting over that, and especially looking at other people's code and then incorporating that into yours, kind of making it your own, is very helpful too. And yeah.
Okay. Awesome. So 2 months, idea, coded on the iOS store. Very cool. So I got to ask you, how much did this cost you to learn how to do that? To learn Swift, to learn how to get on the App Store, how much did this whole thing cost you?
The whole process cost me absolutely nothing. It was I
Wow,
used
yeah.
all free
Did
resources.
you hear that, guys? Absolutely nothing.
Yes, and the free resources out there are so helpful, and there's just and basically an unlimited amount of resources out there. No matter how specific your problem is, you can figure out the solution to it.
Yeah, I mean, there's all this free material, and people help you out. Like, you could post questions, people answer. I mean, on some of my YouTube videos, I have people sending me emails like, hey, I'm working on my own app that's trying to use, like, I was working on that calendar app I did.
Right.
And someone, emailed me. He's like, hey, like, please take a look at this. What am I doing wrong? And, out of the blue, I'm just helping this guy I've never met before. I mean, it's so helpful. It's so strong, and it's very encouraging. We're trying to, get past the stigma of it being, so hard to do and make it more inviting.
Right.
So I think you're a perfect example of that because, honestly, it's so easy to do. Well, not easy, but it's very, the average person, anybody can learn how to do this.
Yes.
I would say. Yes.
All you need to know is simple addition, and you're all set.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. Very cool, man. So let's talk about the other app that you're currently working on. So this one I'm very excited about. I hear it's called Good Game. Why don't you?
Yes.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So Good Game is a kind of a mix between social media and competitive gaming. Basically, it takes casual gamers and puts them one step forward to becoming professional gamers. On the app, you can create your own social media page and also create tournaments and compete with other people online. It is a great app for meeting other gamers. And again, it just puts you one step closer to becoming the better gamer you want to be.
Yes. And esports is huge. I think we were talking about this earlier. I mean, Arlington, which is really close to Dallas, is building, or maybe it's built, the largest esports stadium in the world right now. I think they just built there. I mean, seriously, esports is becoming almost as big as a spectator sport as football is. I mean, they sell out these arenas, and they just have these massive screens, and they sell out the whole arena of people just watching people play games.
Yeah, esports is a huge market, and I think give it 20 years, might be bigger than the NFL and maybe even soccer. I mean,
could be.
Yeah.
What games do you play?
Right now, currently, I play Fortnite and Apex Legends, both great games.
Very cool. Very popular too.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about coding Good Game. So what are you using to code it? Like, is this Swift too?
No, it's not Swift. I actually coded it in Dart and using a framework called Flutter, which helps me build apps for both Android and iOS devices.
Very easy. I mean, back then you had to code, two different apps. You had to do an Objective-C app, and then you had to do a Java app. Now, you code it once, and you could use it both, in both phones.
Yeah, it's a great tool. It's very helpful.
Well, it's Google's, right?
Yes,
yeah.
Google's Flutter, yeah.
Gotcha. Very cool. All right, so let's just kind of go through the same questions I had about the first one. How long did this take you from idea? And it's coming out soon, right? It's pretty much at the end of the development process?
Yes, it's at the end of the development, and it should be on the store pretty soon.
So how long did this take you from idea to planning to it's going to be on the store in a few weeks from now?
So this one, it was a little more advanced than the first app, Fetch. So I would say for about the first month or so, I was drawing up wireframes, just designing the app. And then after that, once I got into coding, it took me about 4 or 5 months to code it all. And then, again, I was learning the language while coding the project. So it might have took me a little longer than if I knew the language beforehand. Because going into it, I was basically a beginner. However, using the Swift knowledge that I knew from before, it definitely helped me with learning Dart.
Yeah. So again, second project, no experience with the language you're even working on, and you just learned by coding it.
Right.
Seriously. Yeah, I mean, you don't need to even understand fully the language. Like, you could just dive right into it. I mean, learning by coding, you're a big advocate of that.
Yes, I'm a huge promoter in experience because opposed to traditional education like school or just being taught by a teacher or going to a code camp, you're being spoon-fed the information. However, when you're self-educating yourself and learning through experience, you encounter these problems, head on. Because too many of those situations are not, they're not ideal. Okay, they're too specific. So when you encounter those problems head on, you learn them so much better. You also learn how to problem solve better. So the mistakes that you encounter in the future, you're gonna solve faster because you know where to go. You know how to solve those types of issues. You're more familiar with the language, and so when you solve those mistakes, the solutions get implanted to your brain, and then you learn the language a lot better and a lot more efficient. So that's why I advocate for self-educating and learning through experience.
Absolutely, because you're gonna honestly if I'm watching a lecture from someone online or whatever I'm doing, I'm not just watching it, I'm coding along with it. Because you're gonna hit problems and you're gonna hit things that you would never hit if you're just kind of writing down, like on a notepad what's going on. You need to code along. You need to just get down and just start writing, and you just keep doing it and doing it and doing it, and all of a sudden, you're able to do it consistently. You're able to really master the language, and you're able to really get things out there. But
Right.
I mean, it's impressive that you did it. You didn't know anything going into it, and you just did it on the fly, pretty much.
Right.
It just goes to show how much content's out there, like how easy it is to go out and I got this new error. How do I solve it? Google the error. Oh, that's how I solve it. Oh, we got another error. How do I solve this? How do I solve this? Google. Oh, that's how I solve it. You fail forward is what we like to call that.
Right. And it really doesn't matter who you are. Like if you're any age, like again, I'm 17 years old. I'm in high school. I mean, if you just have time and if you really want to learn it, it's easy to learn, and if doing it through experience is the best way to do it.
Very valuable skill. So let me ask you this. I'm going to ask you a couple things. So we're going to do what you love about programming and things you dislike. I guess you could talk about, what troubles you faced, within your own project and personal experiences. So yeah, let's do hate, love, or love, hate. Let's do love, hate.
Okay.
So what do you, no, hate, love. Let's end it on a good note. So what do you dislike? What are some challenges you faced?
Challenges I face in coding. I mean, sometimes when I encounter a problem, it might take me hours, maybe even days to figure out the solution. However, if I keep on putting time into it, I eventually solve the issue. And once I solve the issue, the feeling I get is amazing.
Yes, I love that feeling. When you get something that you've been struggling with done, there's no better feeling than that feeling of accomplishment.
Right. I mean, other than maybe sitting down at the computer for hours on end. I mean, to be honest, I kind of enjoy that. Maybe some people don't, but other than that, there's not really any other downfalls to coding other than that.
Yeah, and let's talk about looking at the computer all day. It's what I hear from friends and people I talk to about programming. They're like, oh, I would hate to be sitting down and looking at a computer all day. And, I talk to them about what they do. Some ladies I've been talking to about this, or some guys who work in sales or whatever. They're like, I'm like, okay, what do you do all day? I sit down and I look at a computer all day. Almost every, job, you're sitting down and looking at a computer. And it kind of baffles me that you're so connected to your phone, obviously, and you're so connected, you're staring at a screen all day. You wouldn't want to really dive in to learn, how those things work and, how to create content on that and how to use that, to really express yourself on the internet. You know what I mean?
Right. And I think it's funny how these people that say that are usually using their phones for hours and hours on end every single day. I mean, they're using social media. They're basically addicted to their phone.
Yeah.
So, I mean, looking at a computer all day is not too much different from the regular life, what they do traditionally.
Yeah.
So I think it's a great field to get into because in the future, everything in life is going to be on the screen.
The way we're heading, I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
And people need to express themselves. I mean, the more coders we have, I mean, the better. I mean, the better apps that come out, look how just much social media has revolutionized society. I mean, you could be the person building the next wave of, whatever. It's crazy.
Correct, right.
All right, so now that we got that out of the way, what do you enjoy most about programming?
I think one of the coolest things of programming is that you seeing stuff on your phone, your computer every single day, but actually designing and then putting it on the screen, coding it up, and seeing it display on the screen is probably one of the coolest things ever. And I think since everyone uses their phones nowadays, it's definitely super helpful and just a great skill to learn, just to be able to work with something like an iPhone or a laptop. Because we're so attached to it. Another thing I love about coding is that it's super easy to learn. I mean, take you, just a matter of months just to learn and even write up an app for it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's not difficult at all. Like, again, all you need to know is just simple addition, and you can be fluent within a couple months.
Absolutely. I mean, 2 months not knowing it to an app on the iOS store. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And I mean, this one, your first app wasn't like a cookie cutter app. It was a pretty usable app. Like, it had features. You could comment on different things.
Yes.
It's very cool. All right. So again, Jordan, thank you so much for coming down here. But I would like to, I wanted to leave the audience with something from you. What advice would you give people, let's say in high school or anybody who wants to learn how to code? What advice would you get on how to get into it?
Yeah. So coding, I'm sure many of you think that coding is very intimidated. It calls for like a lot of work, a lot of hard work. You have to be super smart to get into it. However, it really doesn't. Like I was saying, you don't need to know that much going into it how to code. All you need to know is just, again, addition, and then, just some simple operators and stuff like that.
Equals, greater than, stuff you all learned back in elementary school.
If else statements, I mean, it's super easy. And then once you know one language, you kind of get a feeling how to do them all, because they're all very similar to each other.
Syntax is a little different. Operators have different names.
Yeah. And again, all you need to become a good coder is perseverance, because you're going to encounter errors and mistakes. However, if you just put time and hard work into them, you'll definitely overcome those obstacles. And in the long run, you'll learn a great skill, and it will help you out tremendously in life.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thanks again for coming down here. I'm sorry about the weather being so cold.
No problem.
And yeah, guys, that was our first Lesson on Coding podcast. Be sure to follow me on Instagram at Lesson on Coding and on YouTube at Lesson on Coding as well. Jordan, thanks again for coming down, bro.
Thanks for having me on.
Yep. All right.
Peace, guys.
Take care.